Salutations, people of the world. You've entered into another episode of Topic Time. I'm Isaac Delaney, aka the Accidental Genius.
And I'm Alex Brown, aka the infamous Brownie. Today's topic is the Second Industrial Revolution, and we are ecstatic to have a special guest with us.
The premier voice of the Second Industrial Revolution, a steel tycoon and one of the wealthiest men of all time, with an estimated net worth of over $200 billion, Mr. Andrew Carnegie. How's it going today, Mr. Carnegie?
It's going good. Glad to be here with you today.
So, we've got a couple questions for you today. You've played an extremely relevant role in the Second Industrial Revolution, most specifically the steel industry. But before I barrage you with questions, I'd like to know what exactly the Second Industrial Revolution is.
Well, the Second Industrial Revolution has a period of rapid industrialization from 1850 to about 1900. When y'all think of the Industrial Revolution today, it is most likely this period you're thinking of. People with tall top hats, smoke-filled cities, and poor kids running around the streets. It is our understanding that during this period, there were many advancements in the chemical, steel, and electrical fields. How did you use these advancements to your advantage to beat out the competition and create a monopoly? Advancements in production, such as the Bessemer process, open hearth process, telegraph, advancements in the efficiency of trains, and even chemical fertilizers allowed for my companies to grow off each other and expand. A steel company, Carnegie Steel, used the Bessemer process, which removes impurities in pig iron through oxidation on a mass scale. The open hearth process allowed us to reuse our scrap metal and increase our efficiency while also using gas as the primary fuel. The telegraph allowed for myself and other executives to make decisions faster than ever before, further improving our efficiency. The further development of the steam engine made the prospect of building more railroads more viable over traditional railroads. The greater production of food allowed for the advancement in the chemical fertilizers allowed for greater production of food, allowing for more people to urbanize. This gave me a strong, healthy workforce who I could pay less due to the lower prices of food.
Wow, that's something. You really put a lot of thought into it. Might I ask you, what is pig metal?
Simply put, it is smelted raw iron that forms blocks, which we then convert to steel and shape. So, Mr. Carnegie, many advancements were made in transportation and communication. How did they affect trade, immigrations, and other such global interactions? I'm glad you asked. As you know, I am an immigrant myself, and many of my workers are too. Steamships and trains really multiplied the interactions people have from across the globe. It also allowed for more people to come to the US from places like Ireland and Germany, whose populations were growing at a rate faster than the infrastructure could support. These advancements also really helped us move our heavy cargo over greater distances for a lower price. As I stated earlier, the telegraph and phones really allowed for myself and others to make quicker decisions, but it also allowed for us to connect with more people across America and gave us more customers to sell our steel to. The Suez Canal was another great advancement during this period, as Europeans can now more easily venture into Asia and export their goods back to the US and themselves. This greatly increased the interaction between Europeans and Asians. And it has, as we see in the future, or in the past, Europeans will later force their culture upon the Chinese and Japanese.
Wow. So during your storied career as an industrialist, I'm sure you saw many nations rise as industrial powers, such as the United States. But one nation I wish to focus on are the German states and their rise to power. Could you elaborate on the steps they took to become the industrial rival to the United Kingdom, and what made their approach different to that of the United Kingdom?
Well, the industrialization of Germany is tricky as Germany was subjected under a very small government who were then unified under the French invaders and adopted a no-tax policy. This cooperation between local governments led to a greater sense of unity in the region. At this time, the French were more industrialized than the Germans, so they picked up a thing or two from their French invaders. The Prussians then expelled the French from the region under the rule of Otto von Bismarck. And then he stepped up and unified the region, leading to a period of great economic growth. The region was crisscrossed with railroads, and large coal and iron deposits were found within the Ruhr Valley. This furthered the expansion of the railroads. A steel industry led to develop within the nation, and the combination of both the steel and coal industries caused a buildup of capital in the region. This capital was then spent on the chemical and electric fields, and by the end of the 19th century, Germany had the most advanced chemical sector in the world and was the largest economy in Europe. Another great deal of this capital went into education, and the population became well educated and was able to become a leader in the developing technology of the future, such as the car. What set Germany apart from Britain was their phenomenal leadership, and they didn't have to invent things as they went. They could just look at Britain and copy what they had. That's not to say that the Germans were copycats. They were quite revolutionary themselves, but they didn't have to write the book as they went. In your opinion, how did advancements of the Second Industrial Revolution impact the European powers and their thirst for imperialization? Well, Alex, I imagine that many advancements founded in the Second Industrial Revolution, such as the Maxim machine gun, dynamite, and other advancements in weaponry, made the opposition of smaller, underdeveloped states easier, and so it's possible that this increased our thirst for imperialization. In 1898, during the Battle of Durum, in which 50,000 Sudanese and Egyptian forces were cut down by 25,000 British soldiers, this battle highlighted the importance of Maxim machine guns and the new medical developments such as quinine, which reduces the risk of dying from malaria, ensured that missionaries and troops could more safely enter Africa, as malaria was not so much of a threat as it once was. Steamships were another important advancement for the imperialists of Europe, as it allowed for ships to sail against the wind and not be so subjected to the will of nature. I know during the Opium Wars, the Chinese ships were outclassed by the British steamships, which they decimated.
So, Mr. Carnegie, from your perspective as an American industrialist, how did response to industrialization differ between China and Japan, and what allowed the Japanese to compete with the Europeans?
China and Japan had very different approaches to the industrial movement. China was extremely conservative in its approach to Western innovations and free trade due to their conservative royal family. Plus, the Japanese eventually became an industrial leader due to their strange confrontational encounter with the Americans. As America sent a naval force to scare the Japanese into trading, and they did. China was reluctant to accept new innovations in Western education. They felt they had superior technology to Europe and refused to allow their citizens to directly trade with European powers. In the end, this resulted with a war with Britain, which China lost because they had inferior weaponry. On the other end of the spectrum, there was Japan. After the emperor regained control of the Japanese state by incapacitating Confucian scholars, they quickly implemented Western military machinery, allowing them to defend themselves against Europe. Japan also began to export cotton, silk, and yarn.
Well, thanks for coming today, Mr. Carnegie. It's been our pleasure to have you.
Anytime, my friend.
This video was sponsored by Homestead Steelworks, headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Get 30% off your industrial steel purchase over $300,000 using the code TOPATIME.
Thanks. Well, that's been another episode of Topic Time. I'm Alex Brown, aka the infamous Brownie.
And I'm Isaac Delaney, aka the Accidental Genius. Good night, y'all.